Been with Clove Hitch Behavior on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. You're joining me as you do every Friday around 10 a.m. for Behavior 911. I'm going to talk to you about different parts of the science of behavior that can help you and help your family thrive and grow. So, today our subject is going to be on operant conditioning and respondent conditioning. You might have heard of these things before if you've been in a basic psychology class or maybe just through school and life. Operant conditioning, often people think of Skinner and his pigeons. Respondent conditioning, many people think of Pavlov and his dogs. But where I'm going to start is with a story, and then we'll talk about what each of these are and how they can apply more fluidly and be more applicable to what you're doing in your day-to-day life. So the story to begin is going to have my dog involved, my dog Ray. She's a delightful creature. She also, between the hours of 3 a.m. and 5 a.m., wants to go outside to use the restroom, which is quite early, quite early. And unfortunately, this has become a really solid pattern that between those times, she will start to whine and paw and need to go outside. And I wake up, I take her outside, and wouldn't you know it, now I need to use the restroom at that same time. And even if she doesn't wake up, I still react the same. So it's very interesting how different creatures, different people, different entities within a space start to play off of each other and create these patterns of behavior. What creates those, what we can describe them as, is operant and respondent conditioning. So I'll use that little story, that silly little story throughout this as an example. Let's start with operant conditioning. So again, you may have heard of Skinner teaching his pigeons to do all sorts of different tricks by providing them rewards for doing different behaviors. That's kind of the basics of operant conditioning. We have one thing that's a trigger, we engage in a behavior, and then a reward comes after, a reinforcer that will increase the likelihood of that behavior in the future. So if I say, can you pass me the salt? And then you pass me the salt, I say thank you, you're more likely to pass me the salt in the future. Sort of a funny little example there. But what we're looking at is we've got three terms in that contingency, three different things that we're considering when we're teaching something through operant conditioning, when we're teaching a new behavior. We need to have that trigger, we need to have the behavior itself, and then we need to have what happens after to increase that behavior and keep it going in the future. So in the example that I gave, the squeaking and whining and pawing and trying to pull the pillow out from under my head, that is the trigger for me waking up for sure. And then the reinforcement for that behavior for continuing that is the dog gets let out. So she goes, fantastic. This is exactly what I need to do next time. I will continue this behavior. You can see everybody falls into these funny little traps, even somebody who studies and uses behavior science regularly as a part of their job. So as we consider that, we know when we're trying to teach a new behavior, often we'll need to think about those three different terms. But what about that respondent conditioning side? So interestingly, on that side, there's only two terms. The only things that we need to consider for respondent conditioning is what is the trigger and what is the behavior. It doesn't need to be reinforced to continue. So things like if a puff of air comes toward my eyes, so I've got the trigger, I will blink. I've got the behavior. And that's just a natural reflex. A respondent can often be linked with reflex. If I smash my finger, I'm probably going to grab it. These are things that we naturally do. If I taste something that doesn't taste good, I'll probably salivate and then spit it out. The salivation would be that, get it out sort of respondent part of the conditioning. So to consider here that good morning, it's 4 a.m. alarm is now, I think I need to use the restroom. That conditioning has been put in place. Now, interestingly, we can have these combined as well. Like in my story, you heard that there were different pieces combined between the two. This is often how big phobias can come into place. So let's think about it. We've got the reflexes that always occur. A trigger comes and the reflex occurs. So let's say the need to eat, the need to drink, the blink when your eyes are in danger, salivating in your mouth, your heartbeat increasing or decreasing, all those sorts of things, your breath increasing, decreasing, your blood pressure increasing or decreasing, all these sorts of things we don't have a ton of control over, but when a trigger hits, they react. Now, when that gets paired with the stimulus that's not a usual one. So let's say my heart rate should go up if I'm in a dangerous situation. Yeah. But now I have interpreted a situation as dangerous that perhaps isn't. So, for example, going to the doctor or the dentist, not technically dangerous. My body has interpreted some of the stimuli there as dangerous. My heart rate has gone up. Now, when I even think about the doctor or the dentist, I'm having that respondent, or rather that reflex response, as if it was something that should be reacted to as a genuine danger. You may see this in your kiddos that have a test on Friday and suddenly Friday morning they become ill. Could they be faking it? Sure. But also, they could be interpreting, and not, frontal lobe interpreting, but within their body interpreting that there is a trigger of danger. And because they have been conditioned to that space of tests equal danger, we've got that operant conditioning, go to the test, have a bad experience, maybe get in trouble for failing it and not studying. That respondent side has gone, oh, this is danger. I need to put forth the reflex of feeling ill. I need to put forward the reflex of blood pressure increase. I need to put forward the reflex of increased heart rate in order to keep myself safe. And how interesting is that, that we can be going through the world and parts of us, recognize what we're learning and all the pieces through, what the triggers are, what the reinforcement is, and other parts don't need that reinforcement at all. They are getting linked in with other things and causing really interesting reactions. So, again, when you're thinking about different behaviors that don't make sense, why is my child suddenly ill, suddenly tired, suddenly having these funny feelings when this or that comes up? It could be something that was conditioned in a way that linked in reflexes, had a respondent conditioning component. Now, I know this is super complex and it may seem a little bit all over the place. It's a lot to break down in just 10 minutes, but I want to make sure that you have those backgrounds. So, as you consider different behaviors that you're seeing and different parts of those behaviors, it's not just, yelling it out or throwing items. You're also seeing sweating or a heart rate increase or what have you. You can see that there's multiple elements at play that we need to consider in order to help create a new and better behavior pattern. If you want to talk this over, you are more than welcome to contact me. You can find me at chbehavior.com. Call or text 919-579-6192. My big focus is on helping with tantrums and meltdowns, fears and phobias, or behaviors resulting from trauma. There's a ton of different things we can talk over. This is definitely one of them. If you go on the website, you can go to any of the request appointment or book a discovery call buttons. I'm happy to spend 30 minutes just talking it over with you. But in this moment, if you decide, hey, I've got enough to think about just from this talk, let's go to the stuff that really matters most that I want to make sure you remember from today so you can take this forward. As you're going through different behaviors, look out for those triggers no matter what kind of conditioning it is, there's going to be a trigger of some sort. In behavior analysis, we call it an SD, a discriminative stimulus. Stimuli that I go, that. I can discriminate it from other stimuli. That is the trigger. There's going to be something there. There's going to be the behavior, but there isn't always reinforcement to make it continue. So those moments where you're going, why can't I change this behavior in myself? Why can't I change this behavior in my child? It may be because the part that we, as outside of that behavior, that we have control over, is that consequence. And if it's respondently conditioned, consequence doesn't matter. It's going to remain there. Got a lot more deep work that we need to do to be able to parse that out, to pull it apart and make sure that we're moving forward in a way that will cause changes in behavior. Because if you're trying to punish your way out of it, if you're trying to reward your way out of it, that won't do it. Isn't that crazy to think about? So I want to leave you with that. There's so much to consider with behavior. Thank you so much for joining me on Nextdoor Radio, nextdoorradio.com, and the Nextdoor Radio app. I'll see you next week.